Yoo-hoo! It's the time for package from China. The Super Console X is many ways you can play. Where this thing is absolutely great, but we do have like those chemical controllers that I really hate. The Pandora's box, the many different boxes from China that can be used in an arcade machine or a plug and play stick, or you can just plug in a controller and use it like that. Or another thing is like a mini PC. There are actually many different ways to play. And when it comes to, let's say, the mini PCs, we're having all kinds of cool controllers. However, there is only one controller that I'm always using. And this is actually the Xbox 360. If I have a freaking problem with one of these, like say, devices, I'm just plugging this thing in because it will never disappoint me. However, there's one major problem with this. Finding one in pristine condition, because they are quite old now. And most of them are completely like wore out. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in today's video we're going to take a close look at the clone. Yes, the clone of the Xbox 360. So this is a controller already mentioned before that I use every single time for one of these devices. However, now from China, of course they made a knockoff. But the question remains, how good actually is this particular one? Because when it comes to knockoffs, they're not 100% authentic and they don't play the same. But how good or how bad is this one? For this review I just wanted to check out, is this thing even worth picking up, and will my favorite controller from China will be in completely disappointment, or is it going to be any good? So you can already see that when it comes to the differences, there are already like some minor differences or big differences, depends how you look at it. So the white one was going to be the original for this video, and the black version over here is going to be the knockoff. But let's do a quick chit chat about, let's say, what are the difference between the original and the fake one, and how will the fake one work on all of these different devices. The first noticeable difference, it's going to be the quality of the cable. Where the original Xbox 360 cable is going to be an absolutely great cable with this, great cable. That's this breakaway cable situation. Every single time I was looking into a second-hand model, they always like losing these, like say, break cables. You can buy them for a couple of dollars, so it's not going to be a big of a deal. Where with the fake version, they completely stepped away from this situation, where the cable is also like very thin quality, and the cable quality is just in general like different, but not to a point that's going to be bad. I've been using this for some time now, and I don't see any problems, particularly when it comes to the cable outer side, which is going to be start breaking up because they're using like low quality bad plastics. The connector itself, it's great, and it is, well, when I say similar than the original version, but it's slightly different. I didn't notice any problems over there. So when it comes to the form factor, I think they absolutely made a 100% clone out of this, because when you're just holding the controller when it comes to this original white version or the fake one from China, I don't notice any difference. However, when it comes to, let's say, the joystick, you feel a slightly less resistant, but not to a point I think it's going to be a problem. It's kind of funny that when you're just pressing the joystick, you do also feel a minor difference over here. The D-pad has the similar click. And when we do have like no logo on the black one over here, because it's the knockoff version, the A, B and X, Y buttons, here we're going to have like the massive difference. Because you can just hear it already when you're just clicking it. This fake controller has a completely different click, feel and travel situation. Not to the point it's going to be like very bad, because when you're going to be the wicked like test for the buttons, rubbing my finger around the buttons. This feeling is great, and this has to do with the positioning and the shape of the buttons itself. However, the quality, when you're just feeling it and just comparing it with the original one, I don't notice any big differences. So for me, it's absolutely a great controller when it comes to the quality and everything else. And of course, the shoulder buttons are more clickish, but not to the point that it's going to be a negative thing. So in the first test, let's test it out with the Super Console X or an Android box. You can just see that there was no gamepad detected. And the reason I do use my Xbox 360 in most of the reviews, because the original ones are really bad, or they smell chemical, and my hands have like this chemical feel, like a feel, and also, you know, you don't want to use those things. But just going to be plugging it in, and you will see that it will automatically recognize most of the time because of the X input. If it doesn't recognize, we need to set it up, because it has been set it up with this particular controller. And yeah, this is absolutely great. You can just see now it automatically detected. We can just play in game and this works like a charm. And that's one of the things, reasons why I most of the time like grab my original controller. But the fake controller, it's working perfectly. And it's absolutely great when it comes to, let's say, the overall, let's say, gaming experience. I already mentioned that we do have a minor difference when it comes to the touch of the button, so I need to get used to this. But beside that, she's working fine. Also to reset everything, no problem. And again, you can just set it up fairly easy and we have no problem whatsoever also with the joystick. I did notice with some of those like X input fake ones, we did have problems, but not with this particular Xbox 360 clone. Okay, so when it comes to Pandora's box, you need to take consideration we do have a lot of fake ones out there. This is the official Pandora's box 10, and this thing does have an X input like capable situation with controllers. So, but there are a lot of clones out there that don't have the issue or do have an issue with it. So it's also going to be a hit or miss with Pandora's boxes, but not with this one, and I think it's also the DX model. I want to be clear that this is actually this main board you're not going to be using as a game console. You can just use it if you're getting the right controller. So let's test it out. I do need to recall which. Was it the bottom one or the top one? Nope, it's the bottom one over here. There's only one USB port that can be used for controllers. There we go, started to flicker. There we go, started showing player 1. And now we can actually just use it with the Pandora's box, no problem. And that's absolutely great, so it will recognize like an original controller. And this is one of the tests, and the reason why I'm doing different tests with different kind of products, because I did notice some of the X input will have issues. I think it was also the top controller, it was absolutely amazing, looks like a PlayStation 4 knockoff with a wire, but it did have some issues when it comes to some of these things. Let's see if we can get out of the menu, because sometimes that can be an issue. Let's see how it will be configured. So far we cannot access, but we can go into the settings and test it one out. How we need to set it up to go back to the main menu. But it's more like a configuration that we actually can do with this particular controller. But plug and play. But in the next part, let's check out with the PC and try multiple Windows games, because this is the ultimate test when it comes to this controller. I've noticed so many games, if the controller doesn't have the right X input or the right configuration on the PCB, we will have issues with PC games, or some of them. But when it comes to the Xbox fake controller, it also been recognized by RetroArch without any problem. Setting this thing up with retro games, big box, Launchbox, it will automatically recognize in the menu and you don't need to do any extra setting up. And that makes it super convenient to play with the Xbox 360 controller. Woo! Here we go! The feel of the buttons are slightly different, but not to the point that it is really annoying. I did notice when it comes to some of the emulators like PlayStation 2, we do need to go into the configuration of the, let's say, emulator itself, but that is simply to do with Windows having different like emulators connected to the front end. Sometimes you just need to press a button so it will automatically configure, but everything has been set up and works like a charm. Also for PlayStation 2 emulation, and we can keep going on with different emulators. We have no problem whatsoever. Another great test I wanted to do is getting into some homebrew games like Street of Rage Remake, because not every controller is compatible with this game, and if there isn't like a slightly issue with the encoder board of this device or this controller, you will notice that the controller will not be recognized and doesn't work at all. I have like this weird situation going on, but so far so good. I've tested it out on different emulators now and different systems. It responds exactly like the original controller, but I'm getting my ass kicked by that annoying guy. Oh. Okay, another game I've tested out in the past was this game called Blaze Rush. With Blaze Rush I've noticed like with some of the X input controllers I had issues that it didn't work at all. It was kind of weird, but it's just what it is, and this is one of the issues I've noticed throughout years with different, like fake, but also different brands. Not going to be specific at this point, but this controller also here responds like an original game controller of Xbox Microsoft with X input, and yeah, we can just test out the joysticks. They are very responsive, no issues when it comes to that. My favorite controller has been returned, not from Microsoft but from AliExpress. Yeah, this is absolutely a superb controller, and maybe this is going to be my next best thing for just trying it on everything if I'm going to be reviewing something. Yeah, the Xbox controller, just a form factor, and deep in my heart, I'm kind of an Xbox 360 fan when it comes to the era of Xbox and PlayStation 3. But yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think it's worth it? It isn't a wired version. There is also wireless. We can check it out here on the channel later on if you want to. Maybe if this is the right quality and the same support for many different systems. If you want to have a controller without a lot of hassle, you can just plug this thing in and have a lot of fun with many different devices. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, and it would be great to see you on the next video.